Yeah, guys, let's continue from yesterday. I gave you, in the last session, I gave you introduction to ASP.NET. So, what is ASP.NET? It's a server-side scripting technology which is used to create dynamic web pages, and HTML is used to create static web pages. Okay, and we have discussed the request will be moved from browser to the server. So, web server will receive the request and process it and send the response back to the client using HTTP protocol. The result will be coming in a HTML format. The response will come in HTML format. And browsers are, you can use any browser like Chrome, Edge, Firefox, or whatever. And examples of web servers are IIS we use mostly, and Kestrel server will be used in upcoming technologies like .NET Core and all. And in every website we use both client side scripting and server side scripting together, typically in a dynamic website. So client side scripting means people will use JavaScript, and server side script means we use ASP.NET or ASP.NET MVC or core or whatever. Okay, yeah. So you may write the combination of client side script plus server side script together. And how to create a web form also we have seen. Web application in ASP.NET, we need to go to Visual Studio, create a new project, and we need to select ASP.NET web application .NET framework. Okay, yeah. So let's get started, guys. And we have discussed different views of web form. We have design view as well as source view. In design view we can add the design elements, like we can add controls like text box, radio button, checkbox, okay, buttons, checkboxes, and many more. And if you want to see the source view or HTML view, you can click on source view and you can see the HTML tags and or server side code. Both you can see together. Okay, yeah. So let us go to examples on ASP.NET Basic. We'll start from the basic controls and their properties, how to use. Okay. So now our topic is working with common controls of ASP.NET, and we are starting with something called ASP.NET page life cycle events. Okay, one second. Yeah, guys. So what is page life cycle? Whenever you run your ASP.NET web application, it will give you some excuse me, life cycle events, guys. Okay, so those life cycle events we are going to discuss now. What are the page life cycle events we have? Okay, and then we'll see what are common controls in ASP.NET, like text box, okay, and radio button, checkbox, all these things. And we will discuss examples also. Okay, these examples you need to practice a lot. So right now, what are we talking? ASP.NET page lifecycle. So the first, we have around 12 events, guys. Out of which these are the common, regular events that we need to understand. The first thing is pre-init. So what is pre-init? Init means initialization. Pre-init means before initialization of the page or the web form, this event will be fired. Okay, so whenever you run the ASP.NET web application, it will take some time to load the page into browser. Once the page is displayed on browser like Google Chrome or Edge or whatever, Microsoft Edge or whatever, Firefox or whatever browser, it will take some life cycle events. It will do some events in the background. Those we are talking now. So the first thing is pre-init. So before initialization of page, what will be done? That is said to be pre-init. And once the initialization process is started, it will raise this init event. Init means initialization of the page, like controls, setting up the events, all these things will be done in a init event. So after initialization of the page is getting loaded into the server itself. That is said to be with the help of load event, or we can also call it as page load event. Okay, page underscore load event will be there. So that will load your page into the server itself. So once the page is loaded into server, after running some controller events like a button click event or whatever, the kind of controls that you are using, those controller events will be executed in between rendering and loading. So those events I'm not showing you guys, but we have altogether 12 events, out of which these are the five most widely discussed events. So rendering means after the page is loaded, I mean before the page is removing from memory, we have to render the content. So the content means whatever we are displaying, the logic what you are writing in ASP.NET will be converted into HTML format before sending to the client. Client means to the browser. So this conversion of your server-side script into HTML code is called as a rendering format. Rendering. So rendering means it is converting the server-side script, ASP.NET script, into HTML format. Then it will be sent to the browser itself. So once it is displayed, rendered, and render complete event will also be there. Pre-render, render complete, and all. Once all are over, the page is unloaded from memory. 1 second, guys. Yeah, guys. So unloading means once the page is downloading, removed from your server's memory, that is said to be after downloading, it will be removed from memory, server's memory. That is said to be unload event. Okay. So then the page will be displayed, and you can see, you can click on any button or something, it will navigate to some other page. Then again, this process will be happening to second page also. Like that, every page will have this life cycle events. Okay, so we should have the knowledge of all these life cycle events, guys. And then we need to remember something called post back event. What is post back? So this event will be raised when the page is resubmitted. Resubmitted means first time the page is loaded, that is said to be page load event. I filled some data, and whenever I click on submit, then it will be resubmitted to the server back. That is called as post back. So second time onwards, whenever you fill the form and click on submit, or login form you are filling. So first time login form is displayed empty. That is said to be page load event. I filled my username and password and clicked on login button or sign in button. Then that will be submitted to the server, right? So that is called as post back event. Guys, are you understanding? That is called as post back event. So they will ask you in interviews what are the life cycle events of ASP.NET page life cycle events, and they might ask you what is post back event also. Okay, so let's try to discuss all these things detail. You can see this in a PPT actually, but right now I'm focusing more on what you call practical examples. Okay, let's discuss those examples, and then we'll come back to the detailed discussion on the page lifecycle events. Okay, so that is what we have to remember about page lifecycle. Okay, so pre-init, init, load, render, and unload. These are the things we need to remember. In between, you have something like init complete. There is something called load complete, render, pre-render, render, and render complete. Like that, we have unload event. All these controller events also there in between. These are also to be altogether 12 events will be there. But right now we are talking about only these 5 major events. And post back also important thing that you need to remember, because in the code sometimes we may write if post back equal to false, or if not is post back. Like that we will write some code about post back. So you must have the knowledge on post back, what is post back and all. Okay, so that's all about it, guys. And what are the things we have in Result Studio when you are working with ASP.NET? What are the things we have to know? What is web form? Web form is, that is the place where we are adding all the controls. Okay, it is the form or web page, you can say in simple terms, on which we can take or we can display information and we can take some information from the user, on which we can display some data or we can take some input from user. That is called as web form. Okay, usually web forms are having extension called ASPX extension, web form 1.aspx or login form .aspx, whatever is their extension, those are set up with web form. Okay, and then so things to remember. What are the things? ASP.NET application contains a ASP.NET web application, because it's a web application which is working with dynamic website, contains the following. So what are they? Number one, every web project or web application of ASP.NET contains web forms. So many web forms will be there. We have to remember what is web form. We should know. And toolbox. So what is this toolbox? Toolbox is used. It contains some controls. It contains some controls to add to the onto the web form. So if you want to add any control like text box or button or something, label or whatever, so all are available in toolbox. Okay, suppose if you cannot find toolbox in your web application, simply you can go to view menu, say toolbox, go to view menu, toolbox, you can see that. Okay, so like that you can on if that is not visible. And the third one is you should have the knowledge of solution explorer. What is the solution explorer? It is used to add web forms, add or remove web forms. You can add extra web forms. Generally web page or web application is a collection of so many web forms. Okay, so you might have 5 web forms, sometimes 50, sometimes 500. We don't know how many web forms will be there, depends upon the weightage of the project. So all the web forms you can add. If you want to add anything or you want to remove by mistake, you have named it with a different name or wrong naming conventions you followed, so you want to remove it, so you can go to Solution Explorer, you can remove the existing web form or you can add a new web form. And you can add references also. If you want to add references, we can add and you can also add some references and any images you want to add, you can add or remove other files also. Other files means it may be images, CSS files, okay, or JavaScript files, etc, etc. All these can be done with Solution Explorer. So Solution Explorer also plays a key role while working with ASP.NET. And the fourth one is properties window. This is also must. You have to remember what is properties window. So it is used to change the properties, of any control properties. Okay. So what are properties? Let's have a simple discussion on properties now. Suppose I'm talking about any general real world entities like okay, so we are talking about a shirt. Okay, so what are the properties of shirt? Properties of shirt. So like price, what is the price? MRP of the shirt, maybe it may be something like 1500 or 1000, whatever. And then brand of the shirt, brand, it may be like Arrow or any other brand of your choice. And then like color, what color it is, white or something, black or whatever, checks or whatever. Pattern means checks or plain or whatever pattern might be there. And sleeves, what kind of sleeves you have, it may be full sleeves or half sleeves. Okay, and then cloth, what kind of cloth it is, maybe cotton or polyester or semi cotton or whatever, we don't know, right, completely. So cloth, what type of cloth it is, maybe cotton. Okay, so this had to be different type of properties. Size, centimeter size in 42 or 40 or whatever, that is said to be size of the shirt. Okay, so guys, are you understanding? These are all said to be properties of a shirt. Same way, you have so many properties for each and every control that we are adding. Like text box will have some properties. Okay, like what is the text you want to display, you want to read from the text box. Okay, so they're all said to be text box properties, and id is the common most widely used properties called as id. Okay, so like that every control in ASP.NET will have some properties. So if you want to change properties of any control like text box or button background color you want to change, so all these are all possible with the help of properties window. Okay, yeah. And then code editor, or which is also called as code uh, window, or code behind the page. Okay, which is said to be code editor. Like so if you double click on webform1.aspx, so it is the place where we write code for the events. Example, if you have web form 1 now, so the code page will be, code behind will be webform1.aspx.cs. cs means c sharp language I'm using. So that is why the web form code behind page of my web form 1 is webform1.aspx.cs. Okay, that is what I told you. So these things we have to remember while working with ASP.NET. So every day we are going to add so many web forms to our project. We have to use toolbox because I want to add any tool, text box or button or label or whatever. And then we need to go to Solution Explorer to add any web form or to remove or whatever you want to do. And then properties window, because I want to change properties of text box or button background color, I want to change button text, I want to change. All these are all possible with properties window. And finally, we are going to code behind, and we are writing some code. So in which language we are going to write the code, that depends upon the language what you are selecting. Suppose if I select C sharp, then I have to use C sharp language. Like already we are well versed with C sharp, so we are going to write code in C sharp itself. Okay, so these are the things we have to remember while working with ASP.NET Web application. Okay, so now we are going to start with the different type of controls, and how to use properties window we'll see. Okay, so the most widely used controls, like controls again divided into two types: server side controls and client side controls. Right now what we are talking about is server side controls. We are talking about controls means the uh, input elements, like what you are reading data, with what we can read or accept data from user. Means we can accept data with the help of, we can accept or display data on web form with the help of controls. Okay, so like text box, button, label, radio button. Okay, or you can say grid view, etc. These are all said to be what? Controls. Okay, so the controls are again divided into two types. Controls are divided into two types. Number one, server side controls, client side controls. Client side controls. So what are server side controls? Server side controls runs on which runs on server itself. So means IIS server. Okay, and these runs on browser. Client side controls which runs on client. Client means browser. These runs on browser. These runs on server. Okay, and one more thing that we can differentiate server side between server side controls and the client side controls is all server side controls will have, all server side controls have the following. Okay, so what they have, so every server side control will have ASP colon as a prefix. ASP colon as a prefix. Like I have a text box, then what do we write? ASP colon text box. and then id property will be there. Id is equal to like text box 1, that is the name of the control by default given by ASP.NET. Okay, so that is said to be something called id property. And there is something called a run at equal to server. With this we can decide that it is a server side controls. So this will tell you wherever you see ASP colon prefix, number one. Number two, run at equal to server attribute. When you see these two, we can decide that it's a server side control. So almost all what you are adding from toolbox like common controls are server side controls only. But we have something called HTML controls. Like all HTML controls are called as client side controls. Okay, client side controls. So for example, if you add any client side control from HTML section of toolbox, you will have input type is equal to text, like this it will be. Okay, name is equal to something like uname, something like that we will write. This is called as client side control. We don't have ASP colon prefix. We don't have ASP colon prefix, and we don't have run at equal to server. So this is called as client side controls. Okay. So let's get started with the something called ASP.NET common controls. .NET common controls. So what are we discussing now? Common controls means like the most widely used controls I'm talking about now. Label. Number two, text box, button. Okay, and we have something called radio button, and radio button list also there. We'll discuss it later. And checkbox. Okay, and then drop down list. Okay, and yeah, these are the main. Of course we can discuss other controls also, but these are the most widely used controls. Okay, so labels, text boxes, buttons, and sometimes we add radio buttons also, and checkbox to on or off to select one or more option choices means we go for checkbox, and drop down list to select one from the list of available options we go to drop down list. Okay, yeah, so they're all said to be common controls, guys. Okay, so every server side controller will have some properties, common properties, guys. Let's talk about label first. So what is label? So it is used to display text on the web. So if you want to display any text, you can make use of label, guys. Label. So what are the properties we have for label? ID property. ID is mostly used to specify the name used, the name of label to be used in coding. To be used in coding. So in coding, code behind, how do we use? What do we use? We use ID. By default, you may have something like what you call label one. If I add label means it will give you label one. Text box means it will give you text box one. Button means it will give you button one. Like that, it will give you at the end of uh, control name. You have 1, 2, 3 like that. If I add two labels, first label ID is label one, second label ID is label two. Same way buttons also. If you add three buttons, first button ID is button one, second button ID is button two, and so on. It will keep on increasing IDs. Okay, and then text property. This is what to be displayed. The text to be displayed on the web form. To be displayed on the web form. So what text you want to display on the web form? Okay, generally label will be there by default, label or label one. Just you can go to text property from properties window, and you can change whatever you want to display. Okay, like labels are generally used for giving labels itself. Label means information about the input, what you want to accept from user. Suppose you want to accept name of the user from web form, then you can change the text property of label as enter username or enter password. Like that, you can take the text property. So which text you want to display on the label, that you can write it in a text property. Okay, And four color means font color, guys, to change the font color of the label. What is the default color is black, guys. If you want to change any other color like red, blue or something, you can change it. Okay, font color. Same way, back color. If you want to change any background color, you can go to back color property, background color. Okay, so these are the most widely used properties of label. Same way, if you go to button also, text box also, we have same properties almost. ID, text, for color, back color will be common. The extra properties we need to discuss now. So text box we are talking about. What is text box? Text box is used to, it is used to accept, accept, or I mean input, accept text from user. And here what is the advantage? User can, here user can edit the text also. User can edit the text. So but in label we cannot edit the text, guys. We cannot modify the text. Only we can display text in label. But whereas in what you call text box, you can modify also. Now let's see the most used properties of text box. ID, name of the text box that you want to use in coding. Text to be displayed, what text you want to display or accept. Text property. For color, back color is common thing. And the important property for text box, other properties are something like text mode property. Okay, right now you may not use text mode. So text mode may be single line, one line of text you want to take, single line. Or multi-line will also be there. Multi-line means if you want to take multiple lines from user. Okay, like address of the student or address of employee, something like that you want to read means you can go for text mode as multi-line. And sometimes you may want to accept password also. In that case you can go for text mode as password. Okay, so these are the things that we need to remember while working with the text box. Okay, and coming to the button is concerned. Button, so what is the purpose of the button, guys? It is used to click, accept, submission. Okay, when I like submit button, it is used to click to do some action. I want to submit the data, then we have a submit button. Or I want to log in, then we have a login or sign in button. Action like submit or reset. Okay, or login, whatever action you want to do, that you can perform with the help of a button, any button. So, and what are the properties? ID properties common, text properties common, for color, back color, these are all common properties for almost all controls. But only thing, extra thing that we need to remember is mostly ID, name of the button used in coding, the text you want to display for the button, and for color of the font color and back color is common. And we have something called on client click. Suppose whenever I want to execute some like JavaScript code, to execute JavaScript code means client side script code, we use this on client click property. Okay, we'll discuss it later when we go to upcoming examples. So these properties we have to remember, guys, while working with all these things. So now we are going to use label, text box and button one by one, and we will discuss the properties also. Okay, so the first example is I want to read, I want to accept name from user, and then I want to display some welcome message. Okay, let's create a web application using Visual Studio. Create new project. So we have to select ASP.NET Web Form, and the language should be C#. Here you can see ASP.NET Web Application.NET Framework, and C# is the language. Click on next, and we are selecting the folder here. And then Web Application 2 is the name of the project it is giving. Solution name also I'm keeping right now same. In future you may change the solution name with different, and click on create. So we are creating a new project, and this time you have to select what? Web forms here. Okay, select web forms and click on create button. Then it is creating a project. So the first example is I want to add a label first, followed by a text box and button. So I'm adding three controls onto the form, and as soon as user is entering some name in the text box and whenever user clicks on the button, I want to show some welcome message. Okay, so here guys, by default a web application is created with some default pages. You can go to Solution Explorer. I can see there are so many pages, folders and pages available. So last class I explained all these things guys, like what are the folders are available, and like fonts folder, content folder and all, and these are said to be default ASPX pages. ASPX pages means web forms. Like by default.aspx, double click on it. The first page is here. You can click on design. You can see the design of the web page. Okay, see guys, this is said to be design of the web page of default.aspx. Apart from default.aspx, you can add multiple web pages guys. Okay, let's right click on the project. Let me zoom it for you. So we are going to what? Solution Explorer, which is on the right side of the a Visual Studio Solution Explorer. Here my project name is Web Application 2. Right click on it and go to add option. Click on add. You have something called web form in the bottom. Just click on the web form. Or you can also select here new item. Whenever you click on new item, you will have so many elements you can add, like web form with master page, HTML page and many more. Right now we are selecting the web form here. Okay, select web form. In upcoming examples we'll see how to work with web form with master page. Right now we are selecting only web form, and come down, it will ask you the name of the web form guys. Right now we have web form 1.aspx. I'm not changing it. If you want to change like login form or something, you can change here and click on add button. Right now I'm not changing because I want to keep the name as web form 1 itself. Click on add button. See guys, the page is ready. But right now we are in which mode? Source view. We are in source view right now. You can see here percentile at the rate page language is equal to C sharp, auto wire up equal to true, code behind. What is the code behind page? Webform 1.aspx.cs. CS means C sharp language. If it is vb.net, webform 1.aspx.vb will be there. Okay, so we will discuss all these things in upcoming sessions. Go to the design. Right now we are in the design view of the web form 1. So now I want to add a label, text box and a button to my form. So what to do? The first and foremost thing is go to table menu. In the table menu we have insert table option. Click on it, and here we have rows and columns guys. So take more rows, like 5 to 6 rows. Okay, columns obviously 2 are enough. If you want to add more columns also can add, and click on OK. See guys, we have a table here. If you want to increase the height and width of the table, just you can go to the corners and you can increase like this. Okay, so now we have rows, some 6 or 7 rows, and here I want to add a label. So what is the label I want to add? Go to toolbox. So double click on the label. This is a toolbox. In toolbox you have different categories of controls, like you can see standard, and you can expand data also. ADO.NET we use all these controls. Data means ADO.NET. Validation, we have a topic called validations. There we'll see all these controls, validation controls. Navigation, we want to create any menu or any site map path and tree view. These are all set to be navigation. Generally we use menu actually most of the times. And then login controls also available, you can use that also. Web parts, these are all advanced controls like Ajax extensions and all. And HTML controls, these are called as client side controls guys. Okay, we'll discuss it. What is HTML control, difference between standard controls or common controls. We can call them as common controls or standard controls. Okay, yeah. So now I want to add a label guys. Double click on the label. So here you can see in the cell we have a label. Since it is very small in size, you can increase the font size here. Select the label and increase the label size as X large 24 points, or you can say double X large also. It's your wish. Label is ready. And now go to this cell, second cell, and keep your cursor in the second cell, and go to toolbox, double click on text box. Here you can see guys, in the bottom is it is arranged in alphabetical order. So double click on text box. See guys, we have the text box added here to the text box, to the web form, but the size of the text box is very small, and I'm increasing this size to double X large so that it looks bigger. Okay, and I'm leaving some gap here and here. I want to add a button. Go to toolbox, double click on the button. Button is also ready. And select the button and increase the font size of the button as double X large. Now it looks bigger. And I'm adding another label to display the message below the button. So what is my intention? Here I want to accept the name of the user, name of the person, and whenever I click on button, submit button, I want to display the welcome message in the second label. So we are adding one more label here. Already we have added one label to display some message, and this label that I'm adding now is to display the result or welcome message. Select this label, second label, and increase the font size. And I want to change the color of this label also. So click on the foreground color, or you can go to properties and you can change that also. Let me change from the properties window, guys. So till now what we have used, I've added a web form with the help of Solution Explorer. I went to Solution Explorer, right click on the project name like this, and I went to add option. Here we have new item, and here I selected web form and I added web form here. Already we have web form 1, that's why it is showing web form 2 now. Okay, I'm not adding that right now, I cancelled it. And after adding web form, I added a table, and then I added controls from the toolbox. Fine. So we have successfully used what you call Solution Explorer and toolbox. Now we are going to make use of properties window in order to change this label text. I want to change, and I want to change this what you call name of this, id of this text box, and button text also I want to change. So how to do this? Let's select the first label, and here we have right side properties, guys. Go to properties. Let me zoom it for you. See, guys, in this properties window, what it is showing? Label 1. Because I selected label, first label, and I came to properties window, that's why it is showing label 1 here. Suppose if I select text box and I went to properties window, you can see here, guys, what it is showing? Text box 1. So for which control you want to change properties, that we have to decide first. Suppose I want to change the properties of label. What I want to show here, enter your name or enter username. Like that I want to show some text message here, text or name. Okay, something like that. Just I want to change this label as name. Then go to properties of this label, label 1. So what is the ID you want to show? LBL. LBL means it's a naming convention, guys. For all labels, we give LBL. LBL means label. LBL, what you call name. Name is person name. I want to take person name. That's why I said name, N capital letter. LBL small letters and N capital letter. So that it's easy to understand, guys. That is why I'm giving same thing. Press enter. Guys, do not give any space between LBL and the name. When you are giving control names, these are like variable names. Okay. Yeah, that is the first thing. And then go to text property. So what it is showing here, label only, but I want to show here name, means person name I want to show. That is why you can go to text property and delete this. You can type name here, press enter. After typing name, hit enter, then you can see name is displayed. So for this I don't want to change anything. Second, text box I don't want to change anything. So if you want to change means you can change something like go to properties. See what it is showing here. I'm going to change text box 1 properties. What I want to change, go to the ID property which is on the top. So the ID name is txt name. I want to read name from the text box. I mean person name from the text box. Txt name or txt person name also can give, guys. Press enter. Txt name is text box name. And come down, font size also you can change here, and you can change font color. Okay, you can do all these properties. We'll discuss them later. Now I'm going to change the button property, guys. Okay, so why I'm not changing text property for this text box? Because user will enter some text here later that I want to read. So that is why I'm not changing this text property. Okay, you can see here what is the name of the text box? Txt name. What is the name of the label? You can see here LBL name. So now for button also I want to change some properties. Guys, we have successfully changed the properties of label, property of a text box also. Now we are going to change the properties of button. So go to the properties of the button. So I want to change here as submit. I don't want to see button here. I want to change this text property as submit. Then go to properties. First I'm changing the ID of the button. So how do I change? btn submit or btn click, whatever name you want you can give it, guys. btn means button, button submit, press capital. Then go to the properties, text property, and here I'm saying it as submit. So I want to show the text as submit on the button, and the ID that I want to use in the coding is btn submit. See here, guys, it is changed to submit. Okay, save it, and let's try to uh, write the code for this button, guys. One second, guys. Yeah, guys, let's continue now. So we have successfully changed the text property of the button also. So label text property I changed, button text property I changed, and IDs also I changed. So, and I'm not changing this label property right now, guys. I'm leaving it as it is. And now let's run it. Click on IS Express, or you can also press Control F5 from the keyboard. Otherwise, Control plus Fn plus F5 if it is not working. Control Ctrl plus Fn key is there from the keyboard laptop. Control Fn and F5. So you can see this. Click on no thanks and allow. Yeah, click on no thanks and you can run it now.